Hi guys, it's Amy with Aim to Plan, and today I am here flipping through my 2023 Faith Planner. I'm excited about this video. It is time to kind of archive all of my 2023 planners. I have been slowly doing this with putting all the pages up and pulling out the pages that I don't want to keep long term. And so there's a little bit of a switch over, and I have had my planners for 2023 just sitting in a pile, and so I'm, like I said, slowly getting through the pile to archive it. And so I'm going to flip through this faith planner. I'll actually show you the pages that I have in here, but also talk to you about how I archive and what my plan is for going into 2024 and upcoming years. So this is my faith planner. It's I'm calling it a faith planner just because that's the language that everyone uses, but it's more so like a faith journal. I use it to write my reading notes, my Bible study notes, prayers, that type of thing. So right now it's set up on a letter size, like a big happy planner cover. The cover is actually flipped inside out. So this is the actual cover. This is what it looks like. And I did put it on expander discs, although right now it could probably go down to classic size because I did take out some pages. There were a couple of coloring books. I'll show that to you. So it was like coloring pages from a coloring book that I kind of ripped apart and punched to put in here. But I took all of those pages out just because those were pages that I didn't use. So it's a little bit slimmer. I also did go through and kind of clean it out. All of my prayer requests, I did try to cover up any sensitive information. So any prayer requests that were attached to my notes, I did remove most of the prayer requests. I'll talk about that when I get through it. And I removed all of my sermon notes. Sorry, not sermon notes, the bulletins from my church, just because there's information about my church on there, like address, phone number, that type of thing. And so I took those things out. And so, just expect that every Sunday I had a bulletin in here, and I just took those things out. So with that being said, though, I am going to flip through this and show you what I did for 2023. It is for my faith planning, faith journaling. It was kind of a mix of a bunch of different things. For 2023, I decided to read through 2 Bible plans on the Bible app and then listen to 2 podcasts. So the 2 podcasts were Ascension podcasts. One was a Bible in a year. And so I printed out the documentation that they had for that just to kind of show the breakdown of like where we're reading and things like that. I did start the year 2023 in a classic size planner, and so the beginning pages and most of the pages actually are going to be sized for classic, but I don't actually mind the different mix of sizes, so I just put them all in here, classic size and letter size / big size. So these are the pages from the Bible in a year reading plan. I did at the beginning highlight the days that I was reading, but then after that I just didn't do that, so I just kind of stuck the rest of the plan in here at the very beginning. The other podcast that I was listening to was the Catechism in a Year. So this is kind of interesting. I was raised Catholic, and my sister asked that we kind of like listen to this podcast with her, and she told me that she kind of gave up like in March, but I did finish it. And so it was actually really good for me to learn about the Catholic faith. Again, I was raised Catholic. I don't identify as Catholic anymore, but it was just good to hear about, what are some of the basic, tenets of the church and things like that. And again, at the beginning of the year, I was marking through where I was reading and how far I got, but it was basically just the first month, like January. And then after that, I stopped keeping track. But the way that the catechism is broken down, it talks about like the different tenets of the church. It goes through the Nicene Creed, which is right here. Then it talks about the liturgy and like how worship services are run, the Mass, and then sacraments. And then it goes into talking about part 3, which is how we live. It talks about our calling, like what we're meant to do as evangelists for Christ. And then it talks about like the commandments and how that should apply to our lives. And then the last section was prayer. So, it was interesting. Like I said, there were some things in there that I found helpful to learn about the Catholic Church and understand some of the things about how I was raised, but I don't identify as Catholic anymore, so it was really just for my knowledge. So those were the two plans that I had. I also, in the Bible app, was reading through a Bible in a year plan that was in a different order than the podcast. So I was reading through that. That one was through the Bible Project, which I really love their reading plans because they also include videos. And so I was taking some notes on those videos. And then the other plan was a New Testament, just like reading through different chapters of the New Testament. That one didn't have any commentary or videos, so I was really just reading through that one. But for the two podcasts plus the one Bible Project one, I was taking notes for those. So the rest of this is pretty much notes from the stuff that I was reading, as well as any church notes that I have, any notes I took at church. So this is the beginning. This is from the catechism. At the very beginning, I was taking a lot of notes, as you can see here. So this is probably the first like 5 or 6 days of it. Right, and then I mentioned the Nicene Creed. They also covered the Apostles' Creed and talked about like the difference between them. All right, and then it moves into the rest. I have some prayer notes in here as well. And so, like I said, it is mostly the journaling. And so I'll flip through this fairly quickly just so you can see the pages themselves and how I kind of did it. This should be glued down like that, actually. So that goes there. But it's just my notes, like I said. So we'll flip through this fairly quickly. Oh, before I flip through very quickly, this is a very old printable that I found off the internet. I actually have not been able to find it again, but I Googled like Bible summaries of the books of the Bible, and I found this, and I thought it looked really cute, and so I did print out all of this, so you'll see this kind of scattered throughout as well. Okay, now we're going to flip through fairly quickly. Just all of my notes. Very light commentary here. I did read through, of course, like the first 5 books of the Bible, and that was the order that we kind of started it in. I have like random coloring sheets and things like that. I did start a Lent journal kind of around Lent, so like it was the end of February, and so I did something a little bit different, like in terms of tracking a couple of things, but I just used these guided journal pages to do daily journaling for my Lenten journal. So that was actually good. I enjoyed doing that. Again, random coloring pages in here. Some pages I did decorate, but mostly it's just pen to paper, as you can see. And it's really for me to track my notes. Now, as I'm flipping through this, I'm noticing that we haven't yet started our Genesis study. And so here's like where I covered up some prayers. I had like a giant prayer list. And so like here is like March. Okay, so here's an example of like some Bible notes. I mean, not Bible notes, church notes that my pastor just printed out for us and like gave to us. And so that is just like that. And because it was at this point classic size, I punched it on the top and just folded it up so that way it would be able to fit in there, and that works out fine. Again, I don't really mind the different sizes. Right, I have some micro size in here as well. I did decorate some. It's kind of cute, right? And then here we were moving into Joshua, and so with that there were a lot of like, here are the borders of different nations, and so I went ahead and Googled this map, and just printed out where the tribes were and just kind of like be able to understand like where things were. So that helped out a lot, right? And then just like random notes. Yeah, this was one of the ones where I was just like, for the catechism, it was a little bit interesting, talking about iconography and like, you know, Mary statues essentially. Okay, so then here is again some notes from church, right? And I just punched it and sideways, or like at the top, and just turned it sideways to fit in here, right? And so then here, right, like, yeah, there's some interesting stuff talking about Mary for the catechism, which, yeah, well, I'll just leave it at that. And so I was writing on Post-it notes because clearly I was trying to catch up, is what I'm guessing. Yeah, I was trying to catch up. So I must have fallen behind at some point. But then here's some more notes from church. Again, like, I removed all the bulletins from church, so there were probably corresponding bulletins that I've taken out at this point. All right, and then some more, like, made it to Judges. And because I was listening to two Bible, or listening to one and like reading one, I pretty much put this either with one or the other. So whenever I finished one of the books, whether it was with the Bible project plan or with the Bible in a year plan, then I would just put it in here. Okay. I'm giving a lot more commentary than I thought, right? And at this point, you can see it's all still classic size. Okay. All right, and then right around here, yeah, it was probably in April, right? I decided, well, this probably should still be in classic. So I just punched this and probably put it in a little bit later. But I did decide at some point in April or May to move all of my planners to a big size. So that's maybe why I just went ahead and punched it like this instead of across the top and folding it in. All right, and then right around here too, we did start, oh, that should be taped down right there. We did decide to start, this was on the plan for like a very long time, to start a series in Genesis. And so at some point, it was right around Easter, after Easter, actually, that we moved into our Genesis study. So this is, I'm not quite sure. We yeah, okay, so this is right around Easter. I think that was Easter. No, I have separate notes for Easter, so I don't know if that was Easter or not. But so here we are, like right after Easter, and so because this was the wrap up for Easter, I stopped using the guided journal pages, and so that was the end of my Lent journal. And then right after Easter, we started our Genesis study. Okay, yeah, it says right here. So April 15th. Now, what I'm thinking is I'm going to keep a notebook together with all of my study notes from Genesis, because one of the things I'm noticing is I'm encouraging Sophia to study Genesis with us. She has not enjoyed it. So the first couple of chapters have been a lot better, of course, with Genesis, but then it gets into a lot of like, the cycle of, sin that we humans kind of go through, and I'll just keep flipping as I talk, but I do want her to, she's 7 now. I do want her to start to learn about some of the, I guess, like the negative aspects of the fall, and so that's what the study for Genesis, for me at least, is one of the parts of it, and so I want her to do it. And so I did it in April here, and I need to go back and do this. I was printing out coloring pages for her, and so I colored this one, but then I also get her to color these pages as well, and so in some cases you'll see that. So pause from that kind of discussion. This is an example here of I decided in April to start a prayer, like a separate prayer journal, and I used some outdated like kids pages that look like this. I won't flip through it just because it has my prayers in there, but I basically just would write my prayers, just kind of like in the boxes. And I did date it for each day. This is an outdated planner, so I just whited out these dates and redated it, and then just wrote my prayers in there. So pause and just told you about that. So I did it in April, May, and June, maybe a little bit of July, but those 4 months. And then it kind of stopped. I just was not good about keeping up with it after that. Plus, I was just trying to use these pages, and that was about all I had was those 4 months. So with that being said, let me go back to the Genesis notes. So I have like all of these notes for Genesis, and one of the things that I think I'm going to do is I don't need to really keep any of my other notes long term, in terms of like my own study through the Bible, but I do want to keep long-term the notes related to my study, our study, Sophia's study of Genesis, and just kind of see if what it looks like, and so I'm going to go through, and after this flip through, clean out all of the notes, like basically recycle all of the pages that are not related to Genesis, and just keep just the pages related to Genesis in here, and then have like a full like study through Genesis in one book. So that's kind of my thought. I think I might be able to move it to a classic size even. And in fact, I think that I might just add it to my current planner, like to the beginning of my current planner, just so that way all of my faith stuff is together. So that's my thought for right now for what I want to do. And yeah, So let me just flip through this. As you can see, it's kind of like I go between different things. I use different pages. I write everywhere, but I use all sorts of stuff. This part, I was probably catching up quite a bit, and so I didn't even take a ton of notes here. I just put these pages in here. Like we've already made it all the way to July. But you'll notice that I don't really divide it by like weeks or by months or anything like that. It's just like a book with things dated. I must have dropped some water on here. That's sad. But like I said, random coloring pages that I write on, all sorts of things. Okay, and then at this point, it must have been like end of July-ish that I decided to buy these color Genesis with this particular coloring book, but I also purchased Genesis, Psalms, and Proverbs, and I showed you the Genesis pages a little bit earlier, and I didn't decide at that point. I just decided just to cut it up and put it in here, but I'm wondering if I should resize it and move it to classic size. So here's just an example of one of the pages that I kind of, well, actually I think Sophia and I colored that together. I had more like sticky notes, but I want to, I think maybe keep it in classic size. So I think I might go back in and like resize some of this. So I just basically take like this page right here, and I'll show you some pages a little bit later. Oh, here, my church was going through a Wednesday study of the Attributes of God by Steve Lawson. It's on YouTube. You can find Steve Lawson Attributes of God and be able to just YouTube it. But where was I going? Oh, so I think I might resize some of these pages to go into a classic size. Right, I have to blur that out. I forgot that was in there. Okay, some prayer notes, but see, like this is already in classic size, and so I would just move it into my current faith planner and just save all of the Genesis notes together. But this is big, and so yeah, I think I want to resize it and just have it be in classic. Right, I want to resize this one, so this is just again some more notes, and I want to keep them together. All right, and I think I want to get rid of the letter size. So I think I am. All right. As I'm flipping through it, I'm just like, yeah, maybe I should just resize it. So I think I'm going to do that. All right. Sophia colored this. Again, we're working through Genesis, so I want her to sit and focus. Her cousin Anna, my niece Anna, colored this one. And so again, I'm going to resize it. And because some of these pages are unfinished, I might, since I'm resizing it, be able to let them recolor it or like finish coloring it. So like I'll make basically like a classic size coloring book for them. Like that was the easiest way to explain it. It took me forever to get there. So back in using some classic size pages. So like that, and then going to the letter size again. So again, it's just back and forth. Sophia like drew her hand right there. Very interesting. All right. Then again, more notes. Like this one, see, it's not even colored, but I could definitely color it. But I could also toss that because that's not Genesis related, right? Again, this Bible summaries that I found off the internet. We're almost done. And then here, again, another Genesis page. I love this. I would love to finish it. Made it to Esther. See, I love some of these pages. I wrote on the back of it just because I needed note pages. Yeah, so that's why I wrote on the back of it. Okay, and then this our Thanksgiving message. Oh, my divider. Okay. And so then here, we had a church program on the 17th of December, just because people were traveling on the 24th of December. You'll notice a bunch of notes missing between Thanksgiving and Christmas too. Don't know where those notes went. But we went here on the 17th to a Christmas program at church. The children had a Christmas program and they sang Joy to the World. So I put this in here. Probably should have dated it, but it was for the 17th. And again, here's just scripture. Notes from the sermon notes. Let me unstaple it. All right, so that's there. This is the 24th. We actually went to church on the 24th, but there were a lot of people out. And then there were a couple of prayer notes right there, so we'll skip that. And then the very last page here was for Sunday. Again, at church, there was probably a bulletin, but this is the page that Sophia and I colored. So I colored the letters and she colored everything around it. And again, I think I think I'm going to go ahead and resize it for classic size and put it into my faith planner for 2024. And then whenever we finish the Genesis series, I will have like one book and just kind of take out some of those notes and put together like a Genesis book. I think that right now with my faith planner, I think that I'll try to keep any notes that I take about the Genesis series on a separate sheet of paper. I think that will be the best plan. So that way I can pull those notes separate. That's kind of where I'm thinking. If you have any thoughts about that, I'm just kind of talking out loud. But if you have any thoughts about how I could or should do it, please do let me know. I'd be curious. I'd be curious how you might consider doing this. We will probably be in Genesis for about 3 years. So we started April of 2023, and our pastor anticipates maybe end of 2024 or actually probably end of 2025 finishing the series. We take our time. We have like breaks and don't always like just run through Genesis. So we recently did a series on some other topics like missionary work, so that we take pauses and breaks and things like that. So it's not always Genesis for every single Sunday. But yeah, I'm really wanting to keep the notes, especially for Sophia and for Rose. Rose is only one, so not for her so much, but like definitely for Sophia. They're learning the same type of stuff in Sunday school, so I want to put it together. So anyway, I just felt like I needed to process that, and I was thinking about it as I was flipping through this to clear it out, that I wanted to keep these notes, and I think I will. Okay, so that's kind of where we are. If you have any thoughts, again, let me know. But I hope you enjoyed this flip through. Hopefully you got to see a little bit of the behind the scenes, like messy side. Well, not behind the scenes, but like what it looks like for me to kind of mix everything together and just use what I have on hand to be able to take my journaling and write down all the things that I need for my studies. So if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel, and until the next video, bye guys.